Hello and welcome to Blockchain Gaming World with me, John Jordan. We are on episode 93. We are slouching towards triple figures. We will get there. I'm very pleased that today we have Michael Wagner from Star Atlas. How's it going, Michael?
It's going great, John. I appreciate the German pronunciation there.
Oh, should it not be? Wagner, should it?
It's
I don't know
fine, Wagner.
how
Yeah,
should I do it?
yeah. And by the way, I love the background. Big fan. Blade Runner. So love the background.
Well, I'm just wondering, is your background and your shirt? Do you sort of match them up? Is that sort of like,
Not
you're trying to
usually.
give people a kind of a fit or something?
No, I actually I actually dressed up for you today.
Oh, stop it! Very good.
Plus, we're going to have a big presence in Miami for Bitcoin Miami,
Okay.
and so
Okay.
just trying to get into that kind of
No,
Miami feel. Yeah.
I can see. I can see. I hear Miami is very big at the moment in kind of US tech circles. Anyway,
Yeah.
so we're going to talk about your project Star Atlas, which is a pretty ambitious blockchain game on the Solana blockchain. So some interesting stuff to talk about on the tech side. Obviously, loads of things to talk about on the game side. But I think it's always nice for people to get a bit of a kind of a flavour of kind of the interviewee. So can you give us a little kind of potted history about kind of what you've been up to, kind of how you got into blockchain, how you got into gaming? Maybe the two are kind of related, but how
Yeah.
did that happen?
Sure. So, just for my own credibility, I like to talk about my formal career, which is in the traditional finance space. I'm a CFA charter holder, a chartered financial analyst.
Okay.
My work primarily was centered around portfolio management and investment and securities analysis. A buddy of mine, we were on a bike ride together. This was back in 2013. Started talking to me about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies and further mining these cryptocurrencies. And so if I take a quick step back a little further than my formal career, grew up in a gaming group that we called the Lanarchists. If you grew up in the 90s and you wanted to multiplayer game, by and large, you had to bring your big computers over to somebody's house, network them together, a LAN, a local area network, and then you could play games all night. And so that's kind of how I grew up through high school, and I've continued playing games through to this day. But as a result of that, I was very competent and proficient at just constructing my own computers. I built multiple of them over the years
Yeah.
to keep pace with game development. And so when my friend introduced me to crypto mining via script coin mining with GPUs, it just was immediately struck me as an attractive opportunity to be able to I knew how to build the computers. I could set them up. I could start mining. It would create some residual income for me. It turned out to be horribly wrong. It was not profitable at all for very
Yes.
long. It was bad timing. I got in at right in November, I would say, of 2013, and so kind of caught the tail end of that bull cycle. Mount Gox collapse. But what it did accomplish for me was captivating my attention. And so I spent the next couple of years through the bear market just researching as much as I could about what crypto meant, the underlying ideology and philosophy, and also, of course, looking at opportunities to be able to make some money off of that. And ultimately made the decision in 2015 to go full time into crypto, gave up the formal career, focused all my energy on creating something in the space, and ultimately at the end of 2016 launched my first company. And it's called Tokes, the Tokes platform, or Multi-Chain Ventures today, but that was a crypto and cannabis play.
Okay.
We essentially leveraged decentralized financial infrastructure as a payment, custody, and compliance solution for the legal cannabis industry. That business is actually doing quite well, standing on its own feet right now. And the other part of that is that the team that we constructed around that entity are many of which are the co-founders on Star Atlas today. So we have great history and tenure together, and work experience with one another. And so mid 2020, we started conceptualizing the idea of Star Atlas based on what we were seeing in trends around NFTs, trends around blockchain gaming, trends around DeFi. Understanding the potential of that, and then also just all being big time gamers ourselves, looking for the next opportunity, something that we want to spend the next 10 years of our lives on, actually building. And so we kind of all sat down at the table and started conceptualizing what would a video game look like if we were to build it in the blockchain space, and that's all largely come to fruition through the end of 2020, and we've got massive momentum behind us today.
I guess before we kind of get into the weeds of kind of how the game's set up and what's it doing, as I mentioned in the introduction, you're using Solana, which is, I guess I call them kind of these new wave of blockchains. So it's kind of, I guess we had Ethereum as the first smart contract blockchain, then we had kind of EOS and Tron for a while. I'm obviously still going, but kind of don't have momentum. Then we have this kind of whole range, probably a dozen or so, various different sort of positioning on them, various different obviously consensus mechanics. If you get into the tech stuff, which I would be beyond me. But as I say, kind of Solana is kind of positioned there. It's got some interesting DeFi working on it that's sort of gaining momentum, but it's not. To me, it's not. I'm not hearing a lot of games kind of going onto it. So I guess the obvious question is why. I guess you evaluated many blockchains to see what you wanted to go on because you're a forward-looking project that has you want to be running this for 10 years sort of thing. So why Solana and why not some of the other options out there?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I consider these largely Generation 3 protocols, right? Generation 3 Layer 1 protocols. So I should preface my comments on Solana based on the fact that in our game development vision, we are looking to build out a AAA quality title. Right, so this is the highest quality standards across production, across storyline, across lore, essentially everything that goes into the game. But also, once again, graphical fidelity is super, super important. We're building out a fully immersive 3D VR-enabled world. And so, what level of technology would be required for us to effectuate that vision? And something like Ethereum just would not work. It has a great level of adoption. It has a lot of innovation going on. I'm a big Ethereum fan, but ultimately what we needed from a tech standpoint was very high transaction throughput, which Solana delivers. It's greater than 50,000 transactions per second. Low latency, which they also deliver, a sub-second finality on state changes, and then low transaction costs, because we're looking at being able to onboard the global population of gamers. Once again, not necessarily building out a niche blockchain game, but rather building out a AAA game that is enhanced via the integration of blockchain. And so, transaction costs on Solana are less than 1/100th of a penny per transaction. So from the pure tech standpoint, they were able to deliver. But beyond that, the team is high pedigree backgrounds. They do have a novel consensus algorithm, this proof of history consensus mechanism. But beyond that, it was kind of seeing the network that was already established. And when I say network, I mean the people that were affiliated with the project, with Solana. And to be perfectly frank, seeing the support of someone like Sam Bankman-Fried come in, want to develop out Serum on Solana, that was a pretty big key indicator that there was something there, right? I mean, this guy typically gets involved in projects that succeed. So that was kind of a key indicator, and our ability to catch the front wave of the potential momentum behind Solana was a huge consideration for us. Being able to associate ourselves with those same players in that same ecosystem, kind of being a part of the club, and it's and then further just understanding as well that we have DeFi components that are integrated throughout the game user interface. Okay. And so we needed a strong DeFi infrastructure, and between Serum and Solana, we have it. Right, so it was like all of these different factors, but from the tech, they nailed it, and then really our ability to leverage what we thought as a high potential layer 1, which is proving to be true. We made the commitment.
Good. Okay, so let's talk a bit more about the kind of project itself. So, how much of it was at the beginning? You're kind of you're going through your kind of cannabis blockchain kind of project, and then you. Big gamers, so you go, kind of games seem to be, a good place for blockchain. Lots of people kind of have that decision making process. But then I think a lot of other people then go, okay, let's sort of do, let's kind of like map out a project, a certain amount of budget or time frame, and let's sort of do the best we can in that time frame, and sort of things are going to change a lot. So let's sort of get something out quickly. My assumption is that probably wasn't your decision-making process, because you've gone for something that is sort of extremely ambitious. And ambitious is one of those different kind of words that can be kind of used in sort of different ways. It can be, you've been very ambitious in what you want to do, but also I guess there's a case of sort of you must obviously realise about as well as about you can be too ambitious. So,
Yeah.
why did these, particularly like a space game? Because have been a few blockchain space games out there and a few others in development. So obviously people are going through the same sort of process. We all love to be in space and fly around, but equally, those are pretty complex games to do. So how do you balance that? I guess the kind of the risk reward sort of benefit here.
Yeah. So, again, a couple of factors went into the decision to make the space themed game. And I should make mention of the co-founders here, because it really is just this synergy between all of the co-founders that is going to enable us to succeed in this vision, which is quite ambitious. But Danny Floyd is the chief product officer. He's been largely responsible for all of the pre-production planning, the core game mechanics, gameplay loops, and thematics of how Star Atlas will work. Jacob Floyd is his brother. Again, both of those members were on my team at Multi-Chain Ventures. Jacob is chief technology officer, and then Pablo Quiroga is our chief operating officer. He's led up a lot of the marketing efforts, but also business development, and then just strategy and execution. So I just wanted to get their name out there.
Yeah.
In terms of the theme, the grand strategy space exploration theme, it's actually surprisingly simpler to develop than
You think? Okay.
than like a first person shooter where you're on the ground, you're running through a city, where the level of detail requirement is significantly higher. Open space is open space. 98% of what you see is just black. So that was a part of it, but we also are just big sci-fi nerds as well, and we wanted to build a space themed game. And then the final piece is there's not only is this a massively multiplayer online grand strategy space game, but it's also intended to be a metaverse longer term. And what better way to create an alternative universe than to literally create an alternative universe in space? And so that's kind of the idea. Is we saw some huge potential in creating this perpetually expandable universe in which people can live these alternative digital lives. Yeah. So but it does, all of the models sure take a lot of effort. The characters take a lot of effort. The planets take a lot of effort. But generally speaking, the ability to just look at open space, and not have to backfill that in with content is empowering as a developer.
That's a good point on the art creation side. Yeah. As I say, there's been I'm sure I'm missing some out, but I can think of some kind of sort of space exploration combat games that are in sort of alpha at the moment. Some are a bit more in pre-production. There's some that kind of announced themselves and then kind of didn't get out the trap. So how do you sort of try and differentiate yourself? And I guess to a degree, there are these big non-blockchain games like EVE Online, which obviously to some degree it's not on the blockchain, but it's I guess the kind of the behemoth of that sort of space. And while you're doing something new, new is always attractive. I guess there'll be some people who go, well, we've got the ultimate space trading combat exploration game already, where we don't need to make a new one on the blockchain. So where do you think kind of Star Atlas fits in terms of kind of standing out, differentiating itself?
Yeah, I mean, so we kind of sit in this, I don't know if I'd say odd middle territory where we don't have a high degree of competition, because from the blockchain gaming niche, if you've seen what has been produced to date, it's relatively rudimentary, maybe kind of like app style, mobile app style, or a lot of turn-based games or card style games. And we're not developing that at all, right? We're building out a AAA quality gaming experience. So that's our first differentiator. Wanting to develop out a title that would be attractive, once again, to a mainstream audience, not people that know crypto, not people that understand how to trade these assets, but people that are looking for the next gaming experience in space. And there are 2.7 billion gamers around the world. Our closest competitors from the AAA title category would be something like EVE Online, as you mentioned, which has been around for 20 years, and then Star Citizen more recently, but their development track has been relatively slow. A lot of criticism surrounding how rapidly they've come to market with their product. So we're probably closely or relatively similar to those game titles, but we have the advantage of we have deep sophistication and experience in how cryptocurrency works. And so things like economic modeling, not only in the game, but also how does that relate to decentralized governance structures? How does it relate to decentralized token economies, and how do those interact within the game economy? So, from that standpoint, the traditional game developers don't have any experience on operating within these ecosystems, and we do. So we feel pretty confident in that. We're developing out a superior experience from a blockchain game, and we also have much better experience in how to integrate a lot of these decentralized philosophies into a AAA title.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of stage are you in at the moment?
We're still early development. I mean, we were going through all of our pre-production planning, as I
Okay.
said, towards the end of 2020. But we like to say that we move at 2 seconds per second. We've actually scaled the team. So from the core, the 4 core co-founders in December, we're over 65 people on the team today. Many of
Oh,
them are
wow.
on the art and product side, the design side. Anybody that's been following us along on social media will see that we create work in progress shots of our concept art, 3 or 4 days a week. So we're always coming out with new content. We've taken the approach of kind of almost a crowdfunding model, if you will, but through the distribution and sale of digital assets. And so we were fortunate to have a seed round purchased from the FTX and Project Serum team.
Okay, yeah.
So that kind of like spearheaded our initial sale process of tokens. We finalized the private sale of tokens through March, and what we're doing now is the launch of a digital art campaign that we call Rebirth: Genesis of a Metaverse, and it's a campaign of 14 unique meta posters, as we call them. These are multimedia posters. They have augmented reality overlays on every single poster, so you get this true sense of immersion and depth into the poster. It's also coupled with an audio track or audio soundscape. Now we've worked with Blondish so far, Bassjackers, and Steve James, and we have voice overlays from Jason Silva, who's a well-known futurist. He's had a show on National Geographic, but so you get this kind of sense of like entering into the metaverse. But on top of that, we are expanding on the lore. So we're actually taking you on the path and the journey to arrive at what the state of Star Atlas is at the conclusion of the sale. And so we have a really unique kind of economic model associated with it as well. The entire poster set is $525,000 if you want to buy all of them. But we have various tiers along the way. The first poster actually started at $64, and it just doubles every period. And so, the idea was to be egalitarian, make sure that we could be inclusive of everyone. Anybody could buy the first poster, and anybody could get some of the in-game assets as a reward that would allow them to start playing immediately once we go live. But the idea is to take this 14-week campaign. It drives us through the end of July, and then depending on our development output, we'll either have the minigame available and playable at the conclusion of the poster sale or very early in August. And now, when I say the game will be available, it's an in-browser mini-game experience. To your point, we want to ensure that we have touch points with the consumer consistently. And we also want to ensure that people aren't buying assets today that they won't be able to use for 3 years, because the full production requirements in Unreal Engine 5, when we get there, are substantial. So we launched the mini-game, it's in browser. Not only does it introduce some fun game mechanics and gameplay loops, but people are actually able to start generating some value income in a true play to earn model as early as July or August.
No, I think I think that's something that the best blockchain games at the moment have. I'm not sure they took that decision from a strategic point of view, but that's how they've kind of eased into it. I guess the obvious one is something like Axie Infinity, that's gone through sort of various stages, and as they've kind of thought out their strategy, and as tech changes have happened on that game, you started off with a very basic sort of mechanic that I think was auto. The first battles were autoplay, and you didn't really see any graphics, and then they kind of build out various things, and it is an interesting way of kind of building community along the way. That it's not this, I guess, Star Citizen being the great example. Everyone pumps loads of money, and then kind of what happens? They just ask for more money, sort of thing. It's very untransparent. And blockchain, I guess, the one thing blockchain shouldn't be or the one thing blockchain should be is transparent, because that's kind of what we're about, isn't it? So I think that's definitely the way to go. And at every stage, you're kind of building up more kind of community and audience, and even if I think people understand this is not the. And these games are never finished now anyway, so it's kind of makes sense. I mean, do you have after me just saying that these things never finish? I mean, do you have a rough kind of obviously you have some sort of plan for when you think some sort of, I don't quite know what you call it now, some formal launch is happening? I mean, is this like a 2025 sort of thing, or is that it's not even worth talking about yet because there's so many kind of things that could happen?
No, we certainly can. I mean, we do have a production plan in place. Our objective is to deliver the first module, a pre-alpha release of the fully immersive world sometime mid-2022. Now that's limited in scope, but it would enable people to at least enter in their, with their avatar into 3D space, engage in VR activities, engage in VR events. Like we see a tremendous amount of potential just in the social interaction that can occur. So you would say land in a space station, you would be able to interact with with the digital assets that you own that are actually NFTs represented in game. You'd be able to go interact with, say, a digital art gallery, and this could be hosted by another individual unrelated to us at all. They purchased land, they constructed the building, and now they're curating NFT art themselves, and they're selling it through the game as the medium, right? And it's all on chain. All of the transactions are just through your wallet integration. So we think experiences like that, or even in-game concerts and events, social gatherings. Again, we think that there's a big place for that in the metaverse. So beyond that, though, it's at least 3 to 4 years before we deliver some form of finalized version of this. One caveat on that is that we do believe that we're going to be able to expedite delivery on the game faster than some of our legacy competitors, simply because we're using Unreal as the engine. If you've seen any of what they've been producing through Unreal 4 and 4.25, 4.26, it's like really incredible tech. It's such a great head start for us to be able to come in right at the precipice of the launch of Unreal Engine 5 and use that as a tool to build, which helps us automate a lot of processes.
Yeah, they're definitely all over the metaverse at the moment. Epic. Still all the meta-human stuff is crazy. So you've mentioned a couple of times the kind of VR, and I wonder how sort of core that is. I guess we've seen, probably not so much now, but a few years ago actually we kind of saw a bit more kind of VR and blockchain sort of brought together. I guess Decentraland was one of those sort of big titles, and that was originally going to be sort of just VR, and then sort of VR became a part of it, and then VR not sort of mentioned anymore. And so I just wonder how cool that is to what you're planning to do. VR seems to be linked to sort of metaverse, whatever a metaverse kind of is. I guess we all have a slightly our own opinion on that. And obviously VR is super cool, but obviously equally VR is still, I would bet that blockchain will go mass market before sort of VR will. So how do you sort of combine those two? Because you have mentioned VR a couple of times. So obviously it's something that's close to your heart.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you, though. I think that VR still has a long way to go for kind of full attractiveness for adoption. I have my VR headset, and I enjoy it, but a lot is still lacking in terms of even wearing the VR headset itself. It gets uncomfortable after a while. It's not you get maybe kind of sweaty in there. The visual fidelity isn't where you want it to be. You can get a little nauseous. So it's an ambitious component of the project. It's something that would be naturally integrated through Unreal Engine. Okay. The extent of the VR experience is not yet determined. It's too far out, and we want to see where the technology goes before that's fully integrated. But nevertheless, to your exact point with the metaverse, and by the way, even internally across our team, we have differences of opinion of what the metaverse actually is. that we need that we work to reconcile slowly. But yeah, I think for the metaverse, the social interaction component of it is so important. It's not necessarily about entering into a video game and playing a video game. It's about what can you do within that environment that isn't related to the video game. I think that's where I start to differentiate the metaverse from Star Atlas, the video game.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So you mentioned you've staffed up. You've gone from 4 to 80 to 65 people in a few periods a few months. Obviously, like every other game development studio, you're distributed. You don't have an office, even if you wanted to have one, you can't. So I mean, 65 people who've never met each other is obviously throws up its own sort of issues. I guess because the way you started up, most of these people are going to be distributed around the world. You're not really going to have a kind of a core office, maybe for the sort of founders, I suppose. But how is it just kind of running a team like that? So you're a team who never have made a product before. You're kind of, I imagine, probably still hiring. You're making a game that's kind of none of you made before. That kind of actually you could argue no one's really made successfully before. That's quite a lot of moving parts that you have to sort of handle, and I guess it's even quite hard to. What are the metrics that kind of you keep track of to try to make sure everyone is on track?
I am incredibly fortunate. Once again, I'll just commend my co-founders. We all kind of have our own lanes. We execute quite well synergistically amongst ourselves. I'm proud of the fact that we have employees, contractors across 15 countries around the world. We get this like amazing cultural infusion into the styling of the game, and once again, we're very heavy on the creative art side currently, but even our development team, we'll be at 10 people on the dev team and deep experience in blockchain and web dev rather, DevOps, site reliability engineering. So we have a really great diversity across the team that is capable of executing in a number of areas, and everybody just kind of takes their team, and then we all coordinate together from the leadership side. So by and large, I'm not directing the design team on what to do at all. Danny is completely handling that. Same thing, engineering side, and same thing on marketing and ops. I kind of have the fortunate position of being able to pop up here on camera and conversations, and those guys just lead their teams, and they do a great job at it.
How big do you think you have to be? I mean, I think at one point the EVE Online team was kind of 300, something like that. I'm probably bigger now, but yeah, do you think you have to get to that scale, or does Unreal mean you can sort of get away with half of that? Where do you think the dividing line is?
No, I think we'll be up there. Yeah, somewhere in that neighborhood. We have a recruiter that we work with right now, and we're probably going to double again before the end of the year, I would imagine, maybe even faster than that. Some of this is contingent upon the amount of revenue that we're able to generate through asset sales. But, we do have a token generation event that comes up surrounding the time of the minigame launch, and then we have all of our minigame assets that will go out as NFT sales. So things are looking promising for us on the capital side, and I'll also say that I think it's incredibly impressive that we've been able to come to market with this Rebirth campaign. It's our own marketplace that we developed that integrates directly with Serum and lives on Solana, and we've generated on average $800,000 per week in sales, and we're a 4.5-month-old company. So in terms of metrics, we're crushing every one of them. Growth across community, growth across our development, the amount of assets that we're releasing, the amount of revenue that we're generating, we're excelling without question. So, until that changes, I'm not going to mess with anything. No. Don't fix it if it's not broken.
And I guess it looks like for the news we've had over the sort of current week or so from companies like Animoca Brands and the Axie Infinity people, and back in a few months ago, kind of Dapper Labs looking like they're going to fund again. It looks like the flow of VC money is into this particular space is now sort of accelerating as well. Because I guess you're not going to be able to develop the game just off the back of sort of organic revenues and even token sales. You're going to need sort of more input from crypto VCs or traditional VCs or however it's chopped up.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I think that we have some great supporters already that are backing us, that have injected some capital. But by and large, if we're able to maintain our revenue even at this current rate,
Mm.
we're already achieving sustainability,
Okay.
essentially, perpetual run rate, right? Runway. So I feel good about where we're at now. We were modeling for macroeconomic factors around cryptocurrency. Obviously, we know these markets are quite volatile. Interest in any one category is quite volatile, and so,
Mm.
and not only that, but the bear and bull cycles that can be extended, a couple of years at a time. So, how do we survive if there's less interest? But with that said, I actually think that we have quite a robust business model in the sense that we're not just a pure speculative asset like a lot of cryptocurrencies are. We have true fundamental utility underlying everything that we're producing and creating, and even the digital art that we're producing is
Mm.
true collectible.
Yeah.
And so we think that we'll have players in the game regardless of what's going on externally in the crypto space. And further, we have this huge demographic that is, people that don't know crypto at all, that aren't focused on what's happening with crypto
Mm.
volatility. They're focused on what's a fun gaming experience. And, oh, by the way, I'm actually able to own this asset and extract it from the game and trade it with other players. And no restrictions are in place around that. So, yeah, we think we have a pretty compelling value proposition to the general gamer, and then also to um, all of those people around the world who want to leverage this experience to create income for themselves.
Mm.
We think
Mm.
it can be incredibly disruptive especially to developing nations, where they have these opportunities to get in and earn a higher standard of living than if they were to work a job in the local economy and they're playing a video game to do it. So,
Yeah.
yep, again, pretty robust, I think, value proposition.
Hmm. No, I think I've mentioned it a few times in kind of podcasts and things like that. It is interesting how quickly that sort of I guess I don't have a good term for it, but the way that it kind of levels the kind of hourly rate of work across the world, because now we're all dealing in digital assets, so it doesn't really matter as long as I guess there's kind of an entry level in terms of the kind of device you need to play some of these things. So in some places that might be kind of a hard amount of money to kind of accumulate to even get in. But once you have basically a phone or a computer, then the fact that you can earn $10 an hour, it doesn't matter where you are in the world. And for most of us where we are, that doesn't really change a lot because we can kind of do that in a menial job. For a lot of people, they can't do that in a fairly kind of middle class type job. So you're going to get these interesting sort of flows around. And I guess, that's. I always kind of think it's kind of funny because kind of personally, I got into the gaming space because it's sort of fun and we like playing games. But actually, it could end up being with blockchain this kind of actually quite strong kind of economic kind of a disruption, not just in the game space, but more generally, which is not something I guess I certainly thought about getting into like a fun industry like games. But we'll wait and see how that plays out.
Yeah, I want to be careful about how aggressive I am with this comment, but I genuinely think that even from like a financial literacy and education standpoint, interacting with a game like this that has a true decentralized economy inherent, I think that that's incredibly empowering to people who otherwise just don't have the sophistication around finances. And then, again, kind of being careful here, but it kind of has a way of breaking down systemic oppression and as you said, rebalancing the workforce of the world through this digital medium and through this virtual parallel metaverse, this universe that we're creating. So it's going to be really interesting experience, economic experiment going forward. To see just exactly how it plays out.
I do actually think even in something else it also sort of plays into is the fact that lots of millions of people in sort of North America and Western Europe might not feel like they're very kind of competent when it comes to sort of finance, and they might pensions, and that's a bit boring, but they really understand digital economies in games because that's what they spend all their time doing. So as soon as you actually make kind of with blockchain, you make these economies in games real economies, then suddenly, and it's not boring like your pension or buying stock, which they might not want to do, although maybe that's changing now. But it just becomes a lot more kind of holistic. They sort of understand in this game there's this material or this special item that everyone knows it's a special item, so that's worth more than these ones, and you can sell it here or maybe move them around so I guess your game, you're trading around the universe, you're moving things around. And I think equally as well that kind of overcomes some barriers. But I think we're all getting carried away. with all our blockchain kind of sort of ethos.
Yeah, I'll just make one final comment though on I think that there is a tremendous, enormous amount of innovation that's going on in DeFi that also acts as an equalizer in global finance, and so just one example of how we can integrate that type of technology is through one lending pools for people that actually own assets, and then they can create their own sharing economy within the Star Atlas metaverse by contributing that asset to a pool, letting someone else borrow it, pay rent on it, and then go experience the game. And I think the objective of the renter, the person borrowing the asset, would be to generate more income, profit off of their activity in the game. And so now it becomes like a business operation, that people need to analyze. But it's an opportunity that otherwise wouldn't exist. And then I do think that another use of DeFi would even be creating cash lending pools that allows other people to purchase in-game assets. So once again, so they can actually go operate in the metaverse. This form of financing just doesn't really presently exist. We're seeing the emergence of it through DeFi, but I think it's going to be extremely transformative for the individual.
Yeah, good. We have to come back and do another podcast on DeFi in Star Atlas. Yeah, no, I think it is fascinating because I just think it brings two things together that one people understand, one don't understand. But anyway, okay, so we're sort of coming to the end. So you mentioned a bit about your kind of what's happening over the next kind of couple of months. Anything else people should sort of be aware of? How should people be kind of interacting with Star Atlas? I guess you have the usual sort of socials, but what other things can people who are interested in the project kind of get involved with?
Yeah, I mean we're starting to figure out some paths to actually participate in development. So I should mention, and I don't have the specific dates off the top of my head, but we are co-sponsoring a game development track for the upcoming Solana hackathon. I think it might have actually started already, but we're contributing $25,000 in prizes and reward pools to developers that are building out game concepts. The way we want to integrate that is we will have our kind of showcased mini game that people can play, as I said, either July or August. But we're also creating a Star Atlas arcade. And that arcade will be anybody else that wants to build a game. We can get them hosted. We actually pay for all the hosting, so we'll run it for you. There's prize pools to claim. But the general idea is that now they get the brand association with what we're doing and all of the momentum behind Star Atlas, and we get the benefit of being able to present more interactive experiences for the player. So I would say that's the most notable one for those people that develop in either blockchain, DeFi, or gaming. We'd love to see your submissions and would love to see you on the Star Atlas Arcade.
Cool. Good one. Excellent. Well, thank you very much for your time, Michael. That was fascinating. It
was my pleasure, John. Yeah. Let me know when you want me back on. Plenty of more to talk about.
Exactly. I think that's the great thing about this kind of this space is it's really dynamic, but there's kind of no kind of conclusions. There's no kind of fully answered questions. They're always going through this process of kind of next week, next month, there's some enormous things kind of happened that sort of changed everything, and we have to kind of go back and rethink our kind of our views on what we thought were kind of certainties. So.
It's kind of fun swimming in the turbulent air. It can be frustrating at times too, but it is you have to be nimble, you have to be dynamic, and there's some enjoyment out of that as well. So
good, glad to hear it. Yeah. So thank you, Michael, and thank you to you for listening or watching or both. So Blockchain Gaming World is available as a podcast on the usual podcast channels and also on various video channels as well. So whatever you're listening to, please subscribe. Every week we are talking to the people who are building out this kind of brave new world of blockchain and gaming and coming up with these kind of really fascinating, creative sort of new products, I guess. We're coming to a new sort of gaming, and I think it's the best sort of gaming that we've seen in whatever it is, 35 years of gaming. So I hope you're enjoying that, and come back next week, find out what's going on then.